The general consensus among film buffs for the Mario Galaxy movie is that it's just a smorgasbord of shallow references and action scenes. And I'm here to say that those people are factually, objectively wrong. And I'll be using screenshots to back up my claim to avoid copyright. Please understand. Now let me be clear, I'm not saying the movie is a genius work of storytelling, at least not when stacked against most other films. In the context of Mario specifically, however, the writing is actually surprisingly nuanced. So much so that people failed to pick up on its deeper intricacies. To be fair, I do think this is partly the movie's own fault. And I'll also explain at the end the rationale for why Miyamoto prefers to keep story to a minimum in his works, even in film where story is more important. Alright, let's go! First off, I'm going to correct a misconception that I've repeatedly seen about what constitutes a story, because it's a lot broader than most people seem to believe. For the purposes of a written narrative, story is defined by Merriam-Webster quite basically as the intrigue or plot of a narrative or dramatic work. Under this umbrella, stories are generally classified as one of two different types of narratives. Character-driven, where the story is guided by the character's choices and their development, and event-driven, where the story is guided by external pressures and the character's reactions to them. People all too often tend to conflate story with character-driven narrative, and you're entitled to your preferences, but both types of narratives are valid and qualify as storytelling. Even the sequence of actions a player will take in the original Super Mario Bros. Qualifies as a story. Maybe not a compelling one, but even as a purely event-driven narrative, it is a story. Here, I'll call upon my experience writing books to transcribe the beginning of the original Super Mario Bros. Mario stood at the edge of the world, facing the long stretch of obstacles arrayed between him and the first of many castles he needed to retake on his journey to rescue Princess Peach and her Toad retainers. He ran forward, quickly coming across a small group of hovering brick blocks, 3 of which had question marks on them. A Goomba came slowly toward him, waddling with its typical, perpetually angry-looking expression. Mario hit the nearest question mark block, springing forth a strange-looking mushroom. He jumped high onto the blocks and touched the mushroom. The mushroom's power enlarged him, and he jumped off the blocks, stomping the Goomba as it came into view. But very few stories will be either purely character or event-driven, usually having a healthy mix of the two, and that's true of the Galaxy movie. But its structure is unorthodox compared to all other movies that audiences are used to seeing. If you're inclined to compare either of the Mario movies to, say, Pixar, then of course you'll be disappointed. Even if you go in with no expectations, you might not recognize its narrative strengths because of how incredibly subtle they are. First, it's important to understand that, true to the spirit of Mario, the characters don't grow and change, but that doesn't mean there isn't development. The movie focuses on developing the relationships of its characters rather than inner growth, and it centers this around a single theme consisting of multiple plot threads, that being the power of friendship. This theme remains consistent and is reinforced from beginning to end, and the narrative goes to great lengths to set up and pay off developments with the characters' friendships. The first of these threads kicks off right when the brothers are introduced. Oh, and yeah, it goes without saying, but spoilers. Yoshi's introduction starts with him being scared of the brothers and their firepower until they exercise a gentler approach. From there, he joins the group as a friend. This pays off at 2 different points. The first, when Yoshi ends the first fight with Bowser Jr., and the second, when Yoshi saves Baby Mario, Luigi, and Toad from the T-Rex. You're probably thinking that repaying a debt hardly qualifies as thematic storytelling, but this is only the weakest example. Princess Peach's birthday takes the place of the Star Festival from the Galaxy games, and Mario gives her her iconic pink parasol as a gift. The thematic importance of the parasol is greater than you might initially believe, because it's a symbol of Mario and Peach's friendship even when they're apart. Peach uses the parasol to beat Wart and his minions in the casino fight, but their relationship gets even more subtle focus during the scene when Peach is talking with the yellow Luma and Mario tries to get the toads off of her back. The purpose of this scene is to show that Mario cares about Peach and knows what's best for her. It's because of this that Peach entrusts the Mushroom Kingdom to him and Luigi, and this development also serves to set up the ending. The final act sees them running together through a typical Mario-style obstacle course acting as a security system in Bowser Jr.'s fortress. Everything leading up to the end sees them working together to overcome the immense odds, and the parasol even comes back into play when their escape is blocked. Mario takes the parasol back because he has a plan to get them out, but he doesn't do what any other character would do and ask out loud, "Do you trust me?" He just silently extends his hand, and Peach takes it after a moment of hesitation, which showcases the growth of their relationship. But by far the most complex example of the power of friendship in this movie is Bowser's shifting relationship with the Bros. What's interesting about the Koopa King is that unlike the typical character arc most characters would go through in any other story, Bowser undergoes a character loop, a development that was foreshadowed by Luigi in the beginning of the movie, which makes it ironic that he's the one who insists that Bowser really has changed. This complex thread begins with Bowser and Luigi expressing the bond they formed since the ending of the first movie. Later on, Bowser successfully pressures Mario to undo the power of the mini shroom he was forced to eat at the end of the first movie. And Bowser proves that he really was grateful for the action because soon after he offers himself up as a slave to the Queen Bee in exchange for the Bros and Yoshi getting off their planet to follow after Peach in her search for Rosalina. After he reunites with his son, the first half of his character loop is completed when, owing to the friendship he's developed with the Bros, he convinces Junior not to kill them, instead turning them into babies, which leads into the end of Yoshi's thread as explained earlier. From there, the second half of Bowser's character loop brings him back into his villainous role, and there's something we need to understand about his character here. Bowser is a very confused character. The domineering way he tries to court Peach in the first movie is proof enough of that, but that's how he's always been portrayed, even in the games. The conversation he has with Junior soon after their encounter with the Bros and Fox McCloud serves two purposes. The first is to set him back down the path of villainy. The second is to juxtapose the villain's perspective against the movie's theme of the power of friendship. Junior says that friends aren't valuable because they can't be trusted, a belief that the heroes consistently disprove over the movie's course. And then Bowser learns that he was the one who instilled that belief into Junior and comes to believe that he was a good dad for it. From there, he traverses the path of darkness until he's swinging axes at Mario along with his son. And yet, despite all of that, the bond Bowser developed with the Bros ultimately brings Mario to save Junior when he gets eaten by the Odyssey Dragon. But like I said, I do believe the movie is partly at fault for all of this flying under most people's radar. All of these plot threads are done very subtly, in stark contrast to all the references, which are not only in your face, but drawn out for extended periods. I would say the movie does have an issue with pacing, specifically with its general inability to slow down following the first act. The biggest example I can point to is after the group is rescued by the Lumas in the Comet Observatory, and Peach learns of her origin as Rosalina's sister. The scene cuts abruptly to Planet Bowser once the storybook sequence ends, but there should have been a little bit of time for this revelation to digest for both the characters and the audience. The fact that Mario and Luigi later say that they know Peach and Rosalina are sisters leads me to believe there was originally a scene where Peach explains to them what she learned. With all that said, the movie exercises a genuine strength in subtly developing its characters' relationships. In my opinion, the movie is better than what most people think, both as a movie and as a Mario movie specifically. Better, but still not great. Just good. And now I'll address one of the bigger criticisms of the movie I've seen from Mario fans. And that criticism is that Rosalina has so little screen time, even less than Fox McCloud. And just in general, the movie feels less like a Galaxy-centric film and more an assortment of various Mario games. I can certainly understand these sentiments, objective or not as they may be, but there's something we need to understand. This applies to both the Galaxy movie as well as the first one. Whenever the idea of making a real Mario movie came up, us fans had no idea how it could be done, given how little story Mario had. More accurate to say that its story was uninteresting, but the point stands. And you know what? The devs at Nintendo likely felt the same way. I imagine when discussions about making a film initiated, Miyamoto had to think long and hard, even consult outside help in determining how a real Mario movie could even be made. But above all, how it could properly function as a movie in general. To that end, sacrifices and alterations are a necessity, same as any other story being adapted to a different medium. Even if Rosalina has less screen time than Fox, she is the narrative's guiding focus. A character doesn't need to be physically on screen to be important to a narrative, and to believe otherwise is, quite frankly, petty. And she pays off the plot point of Peach's origin mystery set up in the first movie. And in fact, the existence of direct continuity in Mario should be respected, in my opinion. As far as the movie not feeling Galaxy enough, that's all subjective. The movie does include all the important aspects of Galaxy, like Rosalina, the gravity bending, the space setting, the music, in addition to several more minor recognizable elements. Personally speaking, the scene where Fox flies the Comet Observatory toward Bowser's fleet, set to the game's music, instilled in me the same magical awe I felt when playing the game back during my teenage years. So the movie also nailed the vibes of Galaxy in my eyes. Now I'll explain the reasoning behind Miyamoto's minimalist approach to storytelling, and to do that, I'll be dipping into the realms of science to make comparisons. Because yes, I'm crazy enough to apply the scientific method to the ways of Nintendo. In the realm of ecology, the food web can be generally divided into two types of animals: generalists and specialists. Generalists tend to have a varied diet, even omnivorous. They can survive and thrive in multiple types of nature biomes, but more often than not, they'll be smaller prey animals. In contrast, specialists have the adaptations which typically place them higher up on the food chain at the cost of limited range and diets. But there are a few animals which manage to combine the better qualities of both, with humans being the greatest example. And in the great ecosystem of gaming, Mario is the human equivalent. By never developing its characters past the baseline and keeping continuity basically non-existent, the Mario series' creative well has never hit bedrock. Mario can be inserted into any scenario and set against any type of enemy, and it can work because of how basic he is. Yet the Mario formula has the widespread appeal needed to grant him the highest possible trophic level, which basically means he's at the top of the gaming food chain. Carrying this philosophy over into the movies has resulted in functional, if largely unremarkable films. But unremarkable is about as true to the spirit of Mario as it gets. The films are actually doing new things with Mario. Like I said earlier, there's actual continuity, and the Mario cast are being treated as real, three-dimensional people instead of player stand-ins. In my opinion, the Mario Galaxy movie serves as a worthwhile follow-up to the original, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they do with the inevitable third movie. Because really, I haven't a clue what ideas they might have in store, and that's how you know that Nintendo is still Nintendo, even in the realm of cinema.